right, I think we're ready to go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our episode 1 of the Mormon Transitions live podcast. The date is January 5th, 2017. My name is John Dillon, and I am joined by
Margi Dehlin. Hey, everyone.
My sweet wife. We're also joined by a panel of wonderful people. We'll be introducing them as the show kind of continues, but we're trying something very new here. But let me give a little bit of an introduction. First of all, I want to kind of start talking about the organization that makes all this possible. This production today is brought to you by the Open Stories Foundation. You can find us at openstoriesfoundation.org. Our mission is to promote understanding, healing, growth, and community for people experiencing or impacted by religious transitions. So that's kind of what the Open Stories Foundation is about. We provide all sorts of things. We're most known right now for our podcasts. We have several podcasts. Mormon Stories podcast, been around quite a long time. Mormon Matters podcast has been doing great things. A Thoughtful Faith podcast with Gina Colvin. Dan Wotherspoon does Mormon Matters. And then, of course, Mormon Transitions is going to be a new podcast that we're offering. We have some other podcasts like Gay Mormon Stories, Mormon Studies podcast that we've offered in the past. Those still exist. But those are all under the Open Stories Foundation umbrella. People donate to the Open Stories Foundation, and that's what makes the nonprofit possible and these programs. In addition to these podcasts, we've also been doing events. We'll be talking about those, workshops and retreats. We want to provide other services. We want to help nurture community, etc. So that's what the Open Stories Foundation is all about. What's Mormon Transitions about? So think of Mormon Transitions as more than just a podcast. So the website is mormontransitions.org, and Mormon Transitions is going to seek to create and provide information, to nurture relationships, to build community, and even to create culture and all sorts of resources for progressive and post-Mormons and people experiencing religious transition within a Mormon context. Now, how's that different from Mormon Stories, Mormon Matters, A Thoughtful Faith, etc.? Well, first off, Mormon Stories is sort of a format of long-form interviews in depth on various topics. It can be about transitions, but it can be about anything. It can be about Mormon history, about Mormon culture, about the church, all sorts of issues. And that's going to continue. Mormon Stories is not going away. Mormon Matters podcast, and Dan can talk about this in a bit, but Mormon Matters podcast is Dan, who usually brings on panels, and they talk about having a rich, fulfilling spiritual life as you are attending and actively engaged in LDS church participation. Now, Dan's got exciting plans for Mormon Matters that we'll have him talk about, but that's what Mormon Matters podcast has been about in the past. Now, Gina Colvin brought on A Thoughtful Faith, very much aligned with the same theme of Mormon Matters, but Gina Colvin also, she kind of does one-on-one interviews and explores topics more in that format than in sort of a panel format. Now, we'll have Gina on and Dan to talk more about that, but that's what those things have been about. What Mormon Transitions is about is it's, first of all, it's going to be very practical. We are specifically concerned about how disruptive but challenging and exciting it can be for people to experience a religious transition within a Mormon context. So we think there's a need to target specifically that journey, that experience of finding out that the church maybe isn't what you thought it was, maybe losing your faith in it, at least at first, dealing with the holes and the trauma and the loss and the shock of that experience, but then figuring out what to do. Do you stay in the church? Do you not stay in the church? How do you deal with your bishop? How do you deal with family, friends? How do you deal with your spouse and your children or your loved ones? There's all sorts of tips and tricks and ideas about how to go through that. How do you come out as an unorthodox or non-believer? How do you deal with the members of your ward? How do you deal with family? How do you develop your own spirituality? How do you figure out morality? How do you fill all the holes that develop once your orthodox worldview sort of evaporates? And how do you raise kids and move forward and find a happy, healthy life of healing and growth, either staying in the church, but as a progressive, liberal, even non-believing or semi-believing member, or how do you leave and go and find health and happiness if staying actively Mormon isn't something that can work for you? So it's very practical, it's very focused, it's very topical. The podcast is going to have at least sort of 3 different formats. We will be doing long, deep interviews with people about their transition. So we were excited to release at the end of December a 4 or 5 hour interview with my sweet wife, Margi, where we asked her a series of about 50 questions, each one dealing with different phases of her transition. Part 1 was about her life as a believer in the church. Part 2 was about her transition. And then part 3 was about the life that she and we have built now. And that's going to be the format of these long, in-depth interviews. If over time we do 20 to 30 of these interviews with some really sharp, sort of actualized, mature people, we can put those on the Mormon Transitions website. We'll put them on YouTube. People can listen to the stories. They can watch them on YouTube. They can watch them on Facebook. But what we've done that's a little bit different there is we've chopped them up into 50 different small 5 to 10 minute segments. And we think that's valuable for 2 main reasons. Number 1 is some people are not going to want to watch 4 or 5 hour interviews, but they are interested in specific topics. How do I raise my kids in a transition? How do I develop spirituality in a transition? How do I deal with my bishopric during a transition? If I want to stay in the church as a non or semi-believer, how do I do that? And by chopping these videos up, people can just go to the section of the Mormon Transitions website about raising kids, or about spirituality, or about staying in the church, or about leaving the church, or about coming out. And they can watch 20 or 30 different people talk about their experience with that specific topic. And when people are in a world of hurt about a specific topic, let's just say how to come out to your spouse or family and friends, hearing 5 or 10 or 20 people talk about how they did it, what went right, what didn't go right, can all be really helpful in their own journey. So that's sort of part 1, these in-depth interviews. Also, by chopping them up into small segments, we can share those little segments with other people. And instead of trying to share a 4 hour, 5 hour interview, we can say, hey, friend, you're struggling with raising your kids, or you're struggling with spirituality. Here's a little 5 or 10 minute video that you could watch that could be really helpful. So we think that by chopping them up into little segments, that can actually be useful to people. So that's in-depth interviews. The second is this live call-in show. So far, all the content that has been created sort of in Mormonism and even in religion is sort of asynchronous. Record the podcast, record the interview, share it, and then people listen. What we know is a proven model in the world is this sort of live call-in show format, whether it's Dr. Laura, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity. I'm giving a lot of conservative examples. There are liberal ones as well. There's this cool format of, like, you're in the middle of your day, you want to tune into something, you're working, you're driving, whatever it is. Well, you can actually call in, you can engage in the conversation as it's happening. If you want to actually text or write to participate in the show, you can. And you can even call into the show and appear on the show and have a dialogue. So for those of you who are watching this right now live streamed, you'll see that there's a panel of people above us who have joined us for this call. So we've got myself, we've got Marco, Amy, Jeremy, Dan, and Shandi, and they're all joining us. And what we can do during these live call-in shows is bring on guests to speak about special topics, but we can also bring in listeners to participate in the discussion. And instead of it being just theoretical, instead of it just being philosophical, instead of it just being one-on-one with an expert, it can be a discussion where people come on and say, hey, I'm struggling with my spouse, or I'm struggling with spirituality or morality or whatever it is, and we can actually have a discussion live. People can comment and chat real time. And we just think it's a fun format for us to explore, and we think there's a lot of promise there, and nobody's doing it. So I have no idea how many people are joining us right now on Facebook, but we hope you are joining us. We hope you are enjoying the live element of this. We invite you to make comments or suggestions on the live feed, even comment and discuss with each other, and we want to see how that participation actually plays into making some really interesting comments. This will be saved on Facebook under the Mormon Transitions page, and people can go back and watch the live presentation as it happened, and even see the comments that people made while the discussion was going happen real time. And I even think people can comment asynchronously after the program's over, and Facebook's going to actually keep those comments as well. So this is like pioneering territory, we think, in not only Mormonism, but in Facebook, in live discussions. We think this is interesting, and we're curious to see how the live call-in show format happens. What we would really like to invite you to do is, what we're going to do is we're going to publish the schedule of topics ahead of time. So you'll be able to go to mormontransitions.org, see next week is going to be about kids or about spirituality. And if you want to appear on the show, call in. You can call in through audio and never actually reveal anything personal about yourself, or you can come on to our video stream and actually participate with your voice and your face. You can engage in that conversation and ask questions, provide tips, etc., and be a part of the discussion. So that's the live call-in show format. And then the third part of the podcast format will be just interviewing experts kind of in depth. So imagine us interviewing Dan Wotherspoon on how to stay in the church, tips and tricks on staying in the church, or Gina Colvin as you're a member. We can talk about how to handle the temple recommend interview, or how to handle interviews with the bishop where you can maintain your integrity, but still, not set off alarms that cause your bishop to yank your temple recommend and start a disciplinary council, whatever the topic is. In-depth topical discussions with experts. Imagine discussions with Natasha Helfer Parker about sexuality or healthy marriages or raising kids. Imagine us bringing on Noah Rasheta to talk about healthy spirituality, secular Buddhism, other mental health professionals, etc. So that's the podcast part of the Mormon Transitions project. In addition, we have been holding events regularly across the United States and and outside. So if you go to mormontransitions.org/events, we have put up a starter calendar of events that we will be holding. Our first event in 2017 will be in Anaheim, California, sponsored location-wise by Community of Christ, January 26th and 27th. You can go to mormontransitions.org/events. You can sign up for that event. These workshops and retreats are super highly rated. It's people coming who are struggling with issues. They make friends, they make community. We have experts come and talk. We process people's issues real time. We have fun, we sing karaoke, we eat. And everyone I know who's attended these workshops or retreats, pretty much everyone, has said it's been a life-changing experience where they've made friends, built community, gotten suggestions, gotten tips, processed through difficult issues that have changed their lives for the better. On average, these reviews are rated 4.9 out of 5, every single one we've had. And we invite you not only to consider joining us in Anaheim, California, but we will be having a workshop probably in Salt Lake City in February, and we're going to do our first 2017 3-day retreat in Salt Lake City in March. So check at mormontransitions.org/events for details on how to register. And you can always email us at mormontransitions@gmail.com with any questions or concerns. If you want to hold an event in your area, so you're in Atlanta, you're in Dallas, you're in Vegas, you're in, Washington, D.C. If you want to host an event, you can email us at mormontransitions@gmail.com, and you can say, we want to host an event, and you can talk with Amy Grubbs and myself about how to plan that, how to organize it, and we'll make that happen. So that's the events portion of the Mormon Transitions Project. We also plan to put together, we're always getting requests for people who need, mental health services or coaching. So we hope to put together a list of providers so that if you need a marriage counselor, someone to talk to you about your mental health, coaching to deal with your religious transition, we can connect you up with those services. And then finally, we hope that all of this culminates in some sort of book. So imagine at the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, a book. Now, I just realized I've been blabbing for like 17 minutes and I haven't even brought on my sweet co-host. So Margi, welcome to Mormon Transitions Live.
Thanks, babe.
How are you doing?
I appreciate it. Doing well.
Okay, so as I talk about all this sort of like huge list of what we're doing, any thoughts or reactions?
I'm super excited.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's my reaction. Super excited.
What is it that made you want to come on? And you're a really private person. This is not sort of what you normally do. And I think that interview is a huge step for you. Talk a bit about why you care about, why you would want to leave your security, your comfort, your privacy, and be involved in such a public thing where we're streaming to hopefully dozens, if not hundreds of people.
He's turning all interview on me. So why would I want to? Because I believe in it. And I think this is super exciting territory. One of the things that I'm really excited about is this idea of community for sure, structure for sure, this idea that you can go online and really look up by topic the things that you are sort of struggling with or curious about. But also, I really love the idea of what happens when we open up a topic and people can actually call in, and it's very collaborative. And I view us more as like facilitators than anything in this kind of setting. And I just think beautiful things happen when you have a lot of people coming together and sharing, hey, this works, this worked for me, this really didn't, what do we think about this? So yes, and I think it's important to be brave. So just trying to be brave.
You are brave. Okay. So we put together a little list of why we're not doing this and why we are doing this in terms of the Mormon Transitions Project overall and the podcast specifically. Do you want to talk a bit about why we're not doing this? Can you see our notes?
Sure, honey. Why we're not doing this. So clearly we're not doing it because we want to be gurus.
Talk about that.
To create gurus. I just feel like we're all on a journey together. I'm definitely not here because I think I have answers other people don't. What I am really hoping is I feel like we have experiences and we can share what has been relevant in our journey, but what is going to be huge is for other people to do the same. So we're facilitators of a conversation. We're not experts and gurus by any stretch. True.
Is that right?
True that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. In addition, what I wrote, we're not here to create new scripture and a new church. We don't think the world needs more churches. We're not even here to bash existing churches. We want people who attend church or don't attend church to feel healthy and happy and welcome here. But this isn't about the church model, and it's not about telling everyone what the truth is and giving people a new set of rules and guidelines and standards. We want to have a conversation that pulls together the best insight, the best wisdom, and the best learning to let people govern their own lives.
True.
Does that sound fair?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we've talked a lot about what we are trying to do. I mean, if we want to really bring it to the practical level, Marriages are often threatened when there's a faith crisis. Relationships with parents, with grandparents, with spouses, with siblings, with children, with close friendships. All those relationships can be sometimes jeopardized, strained, and even destroyed through a religious faith crisis, through a Mormon religious transition. And so it's important for us, I think, number one, that is our main goal. We want to make it so less divorces happen that shouldn't happen, less families are torn apart, less relationships are ruptured, that less friendships are ruptured, etc. But in addition, let's just say that sometimes someone listens to Mormon stories or reads Rough Stone Rolling or goes to church or reads the Book of Mormon or gets on the internet, and all of a sudden they don't believe like they did anymore. What we realized is it's kind of just irresponsible for us to go, well, we were a part of you losing all your faith and your world unraveling. Good luck. Enjoy your life now that everything's fallen apart and you're in the depths of despair and all your relationships are crumbling. See ya. Thanks for the donation. So what this is kind of about is saying it's also responsible for us, if we're going to realize that that transition is going to happen, to provide resources to help people heal from the traumas and the disruptions of what they're experiencing, and then growth, spiritual growth, intellectual growth, emotional growth, relationship growth, community growth, whatever it is. We want progressive Mormons who want to stay in the church to thrive. And that's what Dan is going to help focus on, and Gina. And for people who can't make church participation work, we want thriving outside of an active LDS church context. We support thriving, healing, and growth in both scenarios. True?
Yeah, super important.
Margi, talk a bit about the challenges of finding friendships and community after transition and how this plays into that. Any ideas? I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, I think the challenges are clearly very real as you are losing. I think you lose relationships on the spot. And over time, I think it's surprising and oftentimes can cause a lot of trauma. And I think it makes you more tentative then from that point onward, like who's safe, who's not, what you tell when, and deciding when to filter. I think it's very, very destabilizing. I hope what this does is not only provides tips, but also provides a community of sort of outreach of people that that you can be honest and feel safe and feel kind of a secure connection here in this space.
Beautiful. The last thing I just thought about really quick is we're not just about alleviating suffering and promoting growth. We're not just about building relationships, forging new relationships and community. I think we're creating culture here. And I don't just mean in Mormon Transitions, and I don't just mean in the Open Stories Foundation, whether it's the ex-Mormon Reddit, whether it's, By Common Consent blog, whether it's Sunstone, whether it's, a Thoughtful Faith Facebook support group or a podcast. We're really we're using words, we're creating memes and ideas, we're sharing in experiences, we're providing each other with support and tips and tricks. And what that's really doing is creating a culture. And just like Orthodox LDS church activity has a culture that we love green jello, maybe some of us, we love the hymns, we love attending activities, those of us who do or can. But that has a culture. And that culture works for the people who it works for, but there's a bunch of people that aren't able to be that sort of Orthodox, enjoy the Orthodox culture and think and speak and commune with others within that culture in a seamless way. So what we're doing is we're creating culture. Orthodox Judaism spun off unorthodox Judaism, Reform Judaism, etc., spinning off other cultural derivatives of that host culture. And I think the progressive and post-Mormon internet is creating a culture that is going to be about more than just complaining about the church or leaving religion, but it's about how do we all relate to each other? How do we share a common set of ideas and words and language and experiences that can nurture us as individuals and in a community? Now, why are you nodding?
I love that.
You like that?
I'm resonating. This is me resonating.
So nodding is resonating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see some other people. Are you guys on the call? No, I see some of you nodding or smiling. Dan's smiling. Shandi's smiling. Got some thumbs up. We'll bring Jeremy. We'll bring Marco. We'll bring you guys on in just a second. Amy, how you doing? Thumbs up? All right. All right. So Amy's good. So that's what we're doing. Now, to begin just a little bit of the content for today's show, we're about 30 minutes in. Normally, we won't spend so much of the show talking about what the show is going to be, but we feel like for the first episode, it was important to kind of lay out the vision so that people can understand what this is and engage accordingly. But let's just do a quick little introduction. Margi, if people want to actually watch your 4 to 5 hour interview on Mormon Transitions, and we also shared on Mormon Stories, you can. But Margi, just tell a little bit about yourself, and maybe a few things you don't know, our listeners don't know about you, just by way of introduction.
Okay. So he asked me to have a few things that are just sort of random things about me that people probably wouldn't know. So I made them really random. But here are a few things about me people might not know. So the first thing is my 8th grade year, we moved to Florida, and my family actually lived in a mental hospital for several months during that year. And because
your dad was a psychiatrist.
Yes. So my dad actually was hired and worked in that hospital. We had a closed off wing, and we lived in a hospital. So that's always like a fun thing at parties, like what you wouldn't guess. So that's the first thing about me, kind of random. The second thing would be, so for the new year, instead of like goals, I'm not a big goal person, but I like to pick like a centering word or something for the year. And my word this year is create. So that's part of what I'm doing here. Just every day, it can be whatever form, a meal, it can be writing, it can be an interview, it can be, an environment, changing up a room, but creating as sort of something that I'm looking to do more of in the coming year. So that's another thing. And then the third thing that is just light and fun is that I love smell. Like if there is just a sense that I don't know what it is, but I'm a total smell person. So in every way, so that would go with food. I love candles. I love incense. I love, fragrance I have a diffuser where I put in like oils or whatever, seriously, but I'm a total smell person. So there you go. 3 things you didn't know. Did you want me to like legitimately tell things about me, or will that
was great.
suffice?
That was great.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Talk just to give, if you were to like tell someone for 30 seconds or a minute, just a bit about your demographic information, just like what you do right now, who's in your life.
My demographic information.
Okay. You're married. I'm married.
I have 4 children, 2 of which are outside the home. And I have living in my house a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. So 15-year-old girl, 12-year-old boy. Tell more about like what other things would you love? We have a cat named Rumi, a female cat named Rumi. We named him after a male sort of poet and philosopher.
What do you do for a living?
I'm going to say like I enjoy actually making a home and everything that has to do with that. I take that really seriously. That's like the art of my life. But I've been caretaking for a lot of my life up until recently with my dad, sharing in that. And also we do quite a bit of coaching. We've coached together. I do some of the workshops. I've
what
done
type of coaching?
Of the things.
What do you mean?
Mostly around transitioning. That's more of the things that we've done. So marital, sort of some of the helping with tips on marital stress during transitioning. But
raising kids, healthy marriages.
Yeah, in that realm. Writing, I've done some writing, and I've really enjoyed that. Worked as an editor short term with my sister at different times. So those are some of the jobs that I've had.
But your main thing in life is what?
Yeah, so my main thing, it's interesting, like the way I mother and the way I take care of home really is sort of my art. And I mean that in like my most sincere way. Though I am now, as my kids grow up, I'm doing this weird thing where I'm planting roots down. I really get that time goes by just like everyone always said it would, that they grow up. And so I'm doing this thing where I really want to be here for them in their time and space when they're here. But I'm also trying to grow myself as they leave the nest to have really I have my own interests. I definitely have things that I love to do on my own, but to grow this side of sort of giving back and doing things that enrich my life and hopefully, help other people too. So
one final thing you have to know about Margi is she's a reader. How many books on average do you think you read a week? You think you read a book a week, sometimes 2 or 3? Am I embarrassing you?
I don't know. I'd probably say probably a couple books a week.
She's been doing that for her whole life. And so those of you who saw her interview and noticed the depth of wisdom, it's because she's just always engaging in the life of the mind. All right. Thank you for introducing yourself. I'm John Dehlin. I'm 47. I'm married. We've been married 23 years. We just had our anniversary.
Woo-hoo.
We have 4 children. In my prior life, I was a technology person. I worked for Microsoft. I worked for the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT. I did programming. I did corporate technology, evangelism, marketing, business management stuff. And around 2004, I left that entire world, moved to Logan, Utah, and went back to graduate school, got a master's in instructional technology, learned about podcasting, started that podcast, and then realized very quickly that there were so many people in need of support in their Mormon transitions that I went back to school, got a master's and a PhD in psychology, and now I'm a PhD in clinical and counseling psychology. Mormon Stories is my thing. I'm the executive director of the Open Stories Foundation. And Mormon Transitions is kind of our new thing. And I love chess. I love playing chess on chess.com. I love hanging out with my kids. And something interesting about me, I have no idea what's interesting about me.
Maybe just a couple things people wouldn't guess or know about you.
I grew up in Katy, Texas, which is a suburb near Houston. My secret dream is to I don't know about me. I love movies. I really love movies. Movies are sort of like an important form of spirituality for me. I watched Maya, my daughter Maya, was about to leave to go back to New Jersey. She's a nanny. And as a going away evening, we set up a big screen in my basement, up against that wall in my basement right over there. Big projector with hi-fi audio, and we watched A River Runs Through It together as a daddy-daughter configuration, because movies are like spirituality to me. So that's something about me. My favorite movie of all time is a movie called A Man for All Seasons, which is about Sir Thomas More getting pressure from King Arthur to compromise King Henry VIII. Yeah. Getting pressure from King Henry VIII to compromise his integrity, and how he stood for truth and justice in spite of the pressure. So that's a little bit about me. Is that enough? And I love chess. If any of you want to play me on chess.com, I'm okay. I'm not great, but I'd love to play you. Is that all right? Okay. So let me just tell you how the format of the show is normally going to work. So we'll always start out, we'll have a topic. Each show is going to have a topic. The topics will be announced in advance. We invite you to email us or leave voicemails. So you can go to mormontransitions.org. There's a little thing in the bottom right-hand scrolling area where you can leave a voicemail. You can ask a question to us. You can share an experience. We will record those, and then we'll share them online so people can actually hear your questions live. We're excited about that. But you can also email us and we'll read your questions or topics. You will help shape the topics that we cover in this show. So we'll start each episode with an announcement about what's going on. Maybe we'll refer to a past show if there's something that we need to resolve. We'll introduce the topic. Margi will join me for many of the shows. It may be that there are other co-hosts or people. We'll introduce a topic. We'll discuss it for a bit. We'll bring on an expert if the expert is joining us. And then hopefully at least the last half of the show will be a live audience participating, calling in through their phone, joining us through video, or texting us on the live Facebook feed, and having a discussion about the topic. And then we'll save that to Facebook so people can watch it later. We'll share it as a podcast in the audio. We'll also post it to YouTube so people can consume that discussion long after it's been recorded. And it'll be about an hour long. And then we'll do it. We'll do it at least weekly. If for some reason we feel like there's something really cool, we could do it more than weekly. And that's kind of what's going on. So now we're going to switch to the active participation portion. And what we did for this episode is invite some of our special friends to join us. And so what I'm going to begin by introducing Amy Grubbs. Amy Grubbs I'm so excited to announce that Amy Grubbs joined us as the first full-time employee of the Open Stories Foundation, aside from myself. She's joining us as the Director of Operations, or the Chief Operations Officer. And Amy, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and I am going to ask you to talk to us a bit, maybe introduce yourself. So for some reason, I just lost Amy. Amy, for some reason, I don't know if I kicked you out, but if I did, please rejoin us, because I was just about to turn the mic over to Amy. Wow, okay, Amy's back on. I'll unmute her. Amy, can you hear or see us? Amy. All right, Dan, can you unmute yourself for just a second? Dan Wotherspoon.
Yeah, there I did.
Okay, Dan, are you there?
Yes.
All right, while we're waiting for Amy to get back in, I don't know what happened. I would like you to introduce yourself briefly and give your reaction to what you heard just now, and talk about what role you might want to play in this or elsewise. So go ahead and introduce yourself really briefly.
Well, thanks so much. I am really excited to be part of the Open Stories Foundation. It has really become something. And with Amy coming on board and you being full-time, it's just, we're going to do some great things together. So as John kind of let go a few times here today, I'm probably in the camp of folks who might find this podcast and these different things of somebody who kind of made it through a pretty long and intense faith crisis and managed to kind of find peace again within Mormonism. Back in 1989, I was studying religion in a master's program, and I really had to finally turn some real questions over to my own religion, and it was really a struggle to have just different things that you sort of assume come crashing down. But luckily I found Sunstone in Dialogue. I found a wonderful mentor in a person who's been on my show a few times named Randy Paul. He was just somebody who felt like, he found a spirituality, he found a secret out there, along with Gene England and Armin Moss and these people I would read and encounter through various ways. And they just seem to sort of find a secret that kind of served as a North Star or something for me. But man, you still have to do the work yourself. You have to really take that time to reorganize how you orient towards your religion, towards God, towards everything like that. Luckily, about 1997, I found James Fowler. I actually sat next to him on a plane. And from our conversation, that just got me into a really big dive on faith transitions. And so not only his book, Stages on Faith, but another half a dozen things was just a 2 or 3 year period. And so I kind of emerged from all this around the year 2000. 2000. And right after that, when I was kind of ready, sort of be able to do Mormonism on my own terms, they hired me as the editor of Sunstone. And so I led Sunstone for 8 years and then worked for another nonprofit for a while. And then in 2011, you invited me to take over Mormon Matters. And it's been a great 6 years doing that. So
beautiful, Dan. Well, thanks for that introduction. How do you see your role? And the listeners are saying that they can't quite hear you. So I don't know if there's a way for you to speak louder.
There, I'm going.
But regardless, is there a way? So try and talk a little bit louder. But
okay.
What I wanted to ask you is, how do you see your role sort of being in this project? Do you have a vision for what role you might play here or elsewhere in your own podcast? Talk about that.
Yeah, well, hopefully this is louder. I'm really happy to come on whenever you ask me to be part of this. I know that, you know, my particular pathway won't be the one that everyone will choose, and that's just fine. You know, sometimes it's just temperament. You know, I was a philosophy major, so I was used to having truth be all confusing and things like that. And I was kind of enjoyed sort of holding things in tension, and so I sort of had that ability to kind of you know, take my time, I think, when it came to Mormonism that way. But for whatever reason, I'm happy to help with you. Whether Gina Colvin and I do something similar, if you're going to interview 20 or 30 people and do the segments like you did with Margi, and Margi, that was wonderful. I loved getting to know you through that. And so I hope everyone will do that. But whether Gina and I do something separately or as part of this, that's yet to be determined. But I love the format. I love the idea of creating books and things out of just the best thinking from wonderful people, as well as, I don't know if you mentioned it, at least you did to me when you introduced this, that there'll be a blog and things like this. And we're going to actually encourage people to weigh in with their own experiences on all those different questions too. And perhaps they'll even become part of a book or a compilation or something there. So I'm excited for that. Mormon Matters itself, we're going to continue with mostly panel discussions. I've got a couple of, I've kind of started to decide to do a few more in-depth one-on-one interviews. So I'm going to give myself permission to vary from the panel format. I've got a group of people together. We're brainstorming a series that I want to call 5 Insights. And it's going to be like 5 insights from various fields of study that help people remain Mormon. So for instance, you know, 5 insights from the study of religion that help me be Mormon, 5 insights from the study of literature that help people be Mormon, from sociology, psychology. And so about once a month, we're going to be doing those kinds of things too. I'm personally also writing a book. I'm trying to dedicate 3 hours every morning now when I'm not shoveling snow like I was today. But I'm trying to dedicate about 3 hours to finish a book called Showing Up, Speaking Up. And it's basically how to kind of do Mormonism as your authentic self, hopefully, and you know, live with the tension that you'll be with someone in your community, but hopefully be grounded in ways that that will you know, allow you to enjoy it the way that I've come to enjoy. I'd rather just be with those people on Sunday than almost anything else, even though we don't think alike. But I love their hearts, and I know that you know, it blesses me to be part of them. So I'm writing a book, and it'll be like what you're doing here, very practical stuff.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, Dan. Thank you.
Too long.
No, that's great. That's great. Marco, I just noticed that you're having to jump off. Introduce yourself super briefly and just tell us one thing you're excited about, and make sure to unmute yourself.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. Thank you for that great intro too. So my name is Marco Perez, or Marco Perez, depending on how you know me. But I'm really excited for this because, so I've been married for about 8 years. We have a wonderful little 4-year-old girl who I'm deeply in love with. And through my transition, it was very difficult at first. My wife is awesome. We're working through things. I think both our minds are being opened in very positive ways. But that first crux was very difficult, very hard, especially as some perhaps toxic things happened in the beginning due to cultures in different places inside and outside of Mormonism. And so having this place of reference would have been amazing. And so I'm really looking forward to it. And that's about it.
Brilliant. And you may help us with editing a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Well, we're really grateful you joined us for this first kickoff episode, Marco. We're grateful to have your insight. We look forward to having you join us in the future.
Awesome. Thanks so
All right.
much, you guys. Take care.
Run to your meeting.
All right, bye.
All right. Amy, should we try this again?
Yes, of all the times for my internet to freeze up, I apologize.
No problem. So tell us a bit about yourself, what role, kind of what you're excited about for this project, and maybe what role you see yourself playing.
Okay. I'm slightly prejudiced. I'm excited about it all. The two things that I'm most excited about are the episodes that you're asking all the questions and chopping them up into different segments. I think I can agree with everybody, especially all the people who are leaving comments, that they loved Margi's first interview and it was fantastic. I also think that as you go through a transition, there's so many different layers and different times that you go through where you need different things, and you might think that you're done with a transition, but then something will happen and you'll kind of backtrack. And so I think that's so needed. I've been involved in several of the events that you hosted last year, and those I think are so amazing in helping build community and helping people really work through certain aspects of a transition. And so those are probably the two things I'm most excited about, but love it all.
Excellent. How do you have any, I guess you'll be helping us produce it, right?
Yes. Yes. Very excited for that. I think it'll be really fun. This new format I think is going to be fantastic. So I'm very excited to be a part of it.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Amy. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
All right. Who else we got? Jeremy, why don't we bring you on really quick? Jeremy, just tell us a bit about yourself. Maybe talk about what you heard today that's a little bit exciting. And maybe a little bit about how you've been helping out the OSF if you want.
Absolutely. I hope everyone can hear me well. I'm Jeremy Mcdonald. I'm most recently from American Fork, Utah. Originally, I'm from Mesa, Arizona, and I moved here from California about 1.5 years ago with my wife and kids. Just a bit about me, I'm a building nerd. I studied architecture. I love buildings, but I'm most interested in how people take space and make it their own. So I'm happy to converse with you someday, Margi, about how you do the art of homemaking. That sounded really interesting to me. I've been trying to help out where I can with the Mormon Transitions and with Open Stories Foundation. I transitioned into the Mormon Church when I was 9 with my mom and sister, and the transition out was a lot bumpier. I'm really excited about everything you've described, and my role up until this point has just been a volunteer to support the efforts that I think you're doing great work, John, and everyone's benefiting from it, and those that are contributing are going to make it, take it to the next level. I know that I'll put one plug in. I'm also a donor to the Open Stories Foundation, and that doesn't come up very much, but I would encourage everyone to be a donor as well. And most recently, I accepted the opportunity to help serve on the board for Open Stories Foundation as the secretary. So I'm thrilled to contribute even more.
All right, Jeremy. Well, we've your contributions have been invaluable the past several months, and your friendship has meant a lot. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks for all your help, and we really look forward to engaging with you in the future. So thanks.
Can I offer one silly anecdote?
Please.
Growing up in Arizona, we had to deal with an awful lot of scorpions, and I got to the point where I just killed them barehanded.
We need to interpret.
Yeah.
Is that do you want to interpret that metaphor for us?
It's actually just literal. It took too long to find a shoe, and you're always terrified, those that are scared of insects, that the second you turn your head to go and find that, shoe, the bug's going to disappear. So it just got to the point where we took care of it.
So what's the strategy?
Swallow all of your fear and shut your eyes. No, make a hard fist and go for it.
Wow.
And probably take more of a risk than you need to.
All right. That was great. Thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate that. Giving us something to ponder. All right, Shandi, why don't we bring you on? Shandi.
Hello.
Tell us a tiny bit about yourself.
So I'm Shandi. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I started my faith transition about a year ago. Live in North Utah County and have 2 kids and love OSF. Super excited for this project.
Well, we're excited to have you. You're a moderator, right, on Facebook?
Yep. So I am a mod over at Thoughtful Transitions. It's a smallish but getting bigger group of people who have transitioned out, and it's really neat. So anybody listening, if you're interested, check us out and talk to one of us mods. Plug.
Thoughtful Transitions is the name, right?
Yep.
All right. Thanks for doing that. It's important work. Anything else you heard that particularly resonated with you about this Mormon Transitions plan?
I'm just really excited. I'm just excited for it to be a bigger tool for people who are actively going through their transitions. I think it's going to be invaluable.
Beautiful. All right. Good. Well, say hi to Jeremy. Wait, your husband?
Jordan.
That's what I meant. Sorry. I'm
Yes.
bad with names sometimes.
He's my schmoopy.
Schmoopy. Say hi to your schmoopy for us.
I will.
Jordan, we're going to have Jordan on Mormon Stories soon, by the way. I'm excited about that. All right,
Yep.
Shandi.
Yep.
It's great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so that was fun. We're getting a little feedback from our listeners that it's hard for them to hear some of our participants, I think. This is a brand new technology platform that we're using, so we're going to have to learn about that. So please accept our apologies if it's hard to hear, and know that we are going to fix that very soon. In fact, after this show's over, we'll end in just a few minutes, and what I'd like some listeners to do is stay on. I'm going to play with our settings a little bit and tweak them and see if we can make sure the audio is better. I will need some of our video participants to stay on so that we can test the audio with them. So at a minimum, Amy or Dan or Jeremy, whoever, Shandi, one of you, please join us if you can. Thanks for that feedback. All right, so really quick, I'm gonna open it up to the listeners now. I think I can see Facebook Live, and what I'd like to do is invite listeners to ask any comments or questions that they have, and we want to answer it, and we want to see if we can actually find a way to process your questions live. So right now, if you're viewing this episode through the video live on Facebook, I want to just ask any listeners to either post a comment or a question, and I at least want to share one or two so that we can test this interaction. So right now, I'm watching the comments, and is there anybody who wants to make a comment or a question that we will read? And I'm watching. So, and we know that there's 64 people right now who are tuning in live on Facebook. So does anybody who's listening, I won't share your name, your last name, or in any way. So the first comment that we have is from your brother, Tim.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, brilliant.
And Tim Weber
That is such a Tim question.
from Logan asks, what is your favorite color, blue or green?
Yeah, it would totally be green.
Actually, that's a Monty Python reference. And if I were to say it in the accent of
do it.
It's what is your favorite color? Blue, no, green. And then King Arthur someone gets launched off into the gorge of eternal peril. Anyway, that was a Monty Python reference. I'm going to give that a thumbs up. Tim Weber from North Logan, Utah, thank you for joining us. Seth Lamb writes, longtime listener, first-time caller, thanks for all your work. Thank you, Seth. Thumbs up. It's great to have you with us. Sarah Spencer writes, what books are you currently reading, Margi? That's a great question. I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for the question, Sarah. Margi, what are you reading?
So I have a couple books going right now. Right now I have a mystery book that was recommended to me, and it's by P.D. James. It's her first mystery book. I guess she's kind of a classic mystery writer, and I think it's called Cover Her Face. And then I always have a nonfiction book. I have Shefali Saybury's book I'm working through on my bedstand, and I think it's like The Aware Family or the something like that. It's her latest book, and I'm almost done, 3/4 of the way through with that. So those are the two for me.
And you didn't ask me, Sarah, but I'll say that I am, there's a book by Elaine de Botton called The Course of Love, I think it's called.
So good.
Amazing book about healthy marriages, healthy relationships. Margi and I meditate for 10 minutes every morning, and then I read from that book for about 10 minutes, and it's amazing, super powerful. So check that book out if you want a really good book on healthy marriages. Darla Gardner from Florida, she writes, love you guys. Thank you, Darla, for checking in. Megan Bear Miller asks what our favorite cereal is with a blush smiley face. Do you have a favorite cereal? This is a silly question, but know that in the future we'll have more in-depth serious ones.
To be honest, I'm not a huge cereal fan, but if I were to choose a cereal, it would probably be like the Great Grains cereal. It has like dates but I don't have a lot of cereal, to be honest with you.
I had spoon-sized shredded wheat this morning with frosted mini wheats, something like that, with bananas. All right, Steve.
Honey Bunches of Oats is the only one and true cereal.
Oh, Dan's weighed in.
People love that cereal.
Of course, the chubby guy, loves the sugar.
Shandi, Jeremy, or Amy, do you have any
favorite cereals?
Favorite cereals? Anyone want to weigh in? Make sure to unmute yourself. Anyone?
Life.
Fruity Pebbles.
Life, Fruity Pebbles. Amy?
I'm kind of like Margi. I'm not a cereal person, but I love oatmeal. So I usually eat oatmeal. I don't know if that's considered cereal or not, but there you go.
Hey, there was a great question from Lizel, if it hasn't come up in your feed yet. I hope I said that right. Is this for people who are transitioning out of the Mormon religion?
Okay, great question. The answer is, this is for anyone, this program, Mormon Transitions podcast, the project, is for anyone who was once Orthodox LDS, traditional believer, who now is trying to navigate the waters of being unorthodox. And that could be unorthodox, but retaining an active, participatory, even semi-believing or fully believing membership in the LDS Church, or trying to figure out what you want to do with your participation in the LDS Church, or if you've decided you need to leave the LDS Church, it's for you as well. So that's a great question. And the answer is, it's for everyone who's in that space of either figuring it out, trying to engage as a liberal progressive member, unorthodox member, or who are leaving. Because there's so much that spans that, whether it's personal spirituality, raising children, developing your own sense of morality, a sense of mission and purpose. As soon as the Orthodox filter drops from your worldview, all of a sudden you have to kind of rebuild sometimes almost everything. That would be my answer. Do you want to jump in?
No, I think you covered it really well.
Okay. So thank you, Lizel, for that question. Let us know if we pronounced it wrong. Patricia asks, how often will you be doing these live sessions? We plan to do them at least once a week, and look for the schedule of what the topics are and when they'll be. That's a great question. Currently, the plan is to do these live sessions Tuesday mornings, Mountain Time at 10 a.m. So write that on your calendar, Tuesday mornings, 10 a.m. if you want to join us live. If that schedule changes, we will let you know. Steve Holbrook asked Margi, what were a few books you found most useful for regaining your inner peace? assuming you have inner peace?
Well, what are some books that I would say? Let's see. I believe there's actually a book by Thich Nhat Hanh about finding true peace, and I remember really feeling quite calmed as I read through that book. The Conscious Parent, even for a non-parent, I feel like it made me aware of myself in a new way that allowed for me to feel empowered and curious. Again, meditation, I know it's not a book, but for peace, that's one of the biggest tools that has been really helpful. Boy, we actually want to do a whole kind of episode on sort of books, because there are so many books that I feel like at different parts again of my transition added a piece that was really important, like Wild. The book Wild for
By
me,
who?
Cheryl Strayed. I really loved the idea of her suffering this trauma in the beginning of the book and then really doing something physically demanding of herself and giving her this space to sort of have this journey inside herself as she was doing something physically demanding. So those are some just sort of ones that came off. Oh, Magical Journey by Katrina Kennison. It's her memoir about kind of coming to herself again and trying to find contentment amidst sort of the challenge of daily life. So those are a few, but Steve, I'll give it even more thought and maybe message you directly.
Thank you. We found Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth to be extremely powerful when we first started going through our transition. Tolle is Tolle, Eckhart Tolle. His interviews with Oprah, where he discusses each chapter of his book, were incredibly powerful us at the time. You can Google those and find them. Just do Oprah, Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth. Those are absolutely worth their weight, digital weight in gold. The Power of Now has some important concepts. I'm a huge fan of Noah Rasheta's book, a podcast and book called Secular Buddhism.
Huge.
Please consider checking that out. We love the Minimalist podcast. We think that's got a lot of really important concepts for grounding.
They have a few books, I believe, as well.
They have some books as well.
Yep. Good.
Yeah, those have been really helpful for us. Dan, do you have a quick answer too about spirituality? Or
well, if I was going to recommend like that, Krista Tippett's podcast, it began as Speaking of Faith, and it's now On Being. Those were my companions, for so many years there, just to see people from every religion. Because face it, there's conservative elements in every religion. There's fundamentalism in every religion. And just to see these people who I just became to admire them and to say, wow, how could I ever, have that depth of grounding that I can look at the crap, I can look at all the ugly things and still sort of maintain that orientation. So just listening to that. And then she has 3 terrific books herself. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Beautiful. I just heard from Jerry Lee and Lisa that the audio and the video are not matching, that there's a lag. We are going to figure out the audio problem, but we note it, and thank you for the feedback. That's how we're going to get this show better and better. Seth Lamb says he loves Noah Rasheta's work. Steve loves Eckhart Tolle's stuff. Casey Enns says The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. Mm-hmm. Amy, do you have any answers to that? You don't have to if you don't.
Yeah, any of Brene Brown stuff, I think.
Yes.
Loves her.
Yeah.
I do love the podcast Happier, and then I just came across one called The Other F Word. It's about conversations about failure and ways you can learn from that and grow, and I think it's fantastic as well. So that's my 2 cents.
That's terrific.
Beautiful. Owen Leonard wrote Leaving Your Religion by James Mulholland. That little video, it's like 45 minutes an hour.
Right.
It's one of the best, most dense, concise things I've ever seen on that topic. And I think he has a website and a book as well, but that's been really powerful. Jeremy, did you have something you wanted to throw in? No pressure if you don't. You have to unmute yourself.
Thanks, I got the audio fixed. Everybody listed a lot of great things. The part for me is whenever I read it, I sit down and write about it for 5 or 10 minutes. It helps me process what I'm going through and retain what I read. So that's the key for me.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Shandi, you want to add anything?
Yes, I do. So I have been reading this book, Parenting Beyond Belief.
Yes.
Yes.
Who's the
It's a
author?
great, let's see, it's Dale McGowan
Dale
and Michael
McGowan,
Schumer. McGowan.
He's the editor of the religious blog Patheos, and he's a friend. Yeah.
It's really great. And it's kind of geared towards raising kids with a secular mindset. Also, there are a lot of, I've got little kids, so I've been transitioning with littles, and we have bought some books for little kids that are just about discovering your surroundings and teaching morals without religion. So, so anyway, I'll have to make a list and I'll post it.
Okay. Yeah. One thing we'll do is add show notes where we post books we reference at the end. Shandi, Sarah Spencer wrote, Shandi is our favorite schmoopy.
Sarah is a mod over at Thoughtful Transitions.
The mod at Thoughtful Transitions. And
Sarah's great.
Someone else asked the name of the group that Shandi mods because they didn't hear it, and it's called Thoughtful Transitions. There's also one called A Thoughtful Faith for people trying to remain actively spiritually engaged within the church. They're very selective about joining, so you have to meet their criteria. There's always the Mormon Stories podcast community, etc. Were you going to say something really quick, Shandi?
Well, I was just going to say, for anybody that has transitioned but wants to kind of be in a safe place where other people can't really see that they're a part of the group, Thoughtful Transition is that group.
Okay.
So we vet and we're really careful.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay. We're past our hour, so I think it's okay to wrap up. I want to, we don't, it's not a guarantee that this program is going to continue. We really like it. We believe in it. We really want it to continue, but it's only going to continue with your support. So here's some things you can do to make this program continue, and not just this podcast, but the project, Mormon Transitions, etc. The first thing you do if you want to see it continue is support us financially. You can go up to mormontransitions.org. There's a donate button in the top right. You can donate a recurring donation, $10, $20, $50, $100 a month, whatever you can afford. If you're no longer in the church and you have disposable income, secular tithing that you want to use to contribute, think of this as a way to give back, to support others. It's all tax deductible. Even if you're in the church, hopefully everyone can afford $10 a month. If you can make recurring donations, that helps us pay Margi, pay for the support services, the technology, the infrastructure. It goes to the foundation to pay Amy and our budget to make all this possible, the events, to pay our podcasters. If you want to pay Dan more or Gina more, money to the Open Stories Foundation goes to support all the offerings that we have, not just this particular podcast. So please donate. We know that with like Dan or Gina or my podcast, tens of thousands of listeners, hundreds of donors. Please change that ratio by just becoming a monthly donor. That could make the world of difference for us. Please like Mormon Transitions Facebook page. The more people that like it, the more people that tune in, the more it gets known and shared. Please promote episodes. If you like this episode, if you like this project, share it on your wall. Just say, go up to Mormon Transitions, go to this episode, click share it on your wall, share it in groups you're a part of, and say, hey, I listened to this. This seems like a really exciting endeavor. I want to support it. Please share it, each episode, on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever you share things, in private emails with other people, etc. Please email us with your questions, with your comments, with your feedback. Please let us know if the audio's bad or the video's bad or the experience is bad, or if you love it. We would love to share your comments and questions on air. If you have ideas for topics, please share with us. We would love to incorporate those. Please leave voicemails, as I said. And just tune in. if you're listening and engaging, you can appear on the show. If you want to come on the show, either in video or call-in format. And it was super helpful for people who just texted in. I really love the fact that people are giving their own suggestions real time. So it's not just us, it's the panelists, but also listeners answering questions through Facebook Live. That's a really powerful way for us to draw on the wisdom and the experience of the community and not just us. So those are the ways you can help. Please tune in, let us know. And this has been really fun. I'm really grateful. I think it wasn't a perfect show. We've got some audio things we need to work through. But Margi, I love you.
I love you.
And thank you for joining us on this first episode.
My pleasure.
Isn't she darling?
I'm darling.
And wise. Let's
She
not
is
objectify her. She's darling and wise. Amy, any final words?
No, I think Margi's darling and wise as well. I think you are too. And thanks for letting me come on. That was so fun.
All right. Thanks, Amy, for joining us. Dan, you want to give us a final word?
I'm excited. Thanks. I hope to come back on this a few times and be happy to interact with anybody who ever wants to.
Check out MormonMatters.org. Donate to MormonMatters.org. Dan deserves financial support. Please
yes,
donate.
He does. No, we all do. It's good work and it's important work. We'd do it for free if we could, but it sure helps.
Yep.
Thank you, Dan. I need to remember to click on their window to make their picture bigger when they contribute.
Oh.
So help me remember that.
Okay. I'm on it.
Okay, so Shandi, any final words for us?
Just really excited. Can't wait. This is going to be a great project. It's going to help a lot of people.
And
You guys are awesome.
You too, Shandi.
And a shout out to Thoughtful Transitions group. We look to that group to be one of the main user listener support groups. Thanks to the mods there, etc. Thanks again, Shandi. You're awesome.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank
You guys
you,
are too.
everyone.
And just finally, thanks to everyone who tuned in today, who listened after the show. Thanks to everyone who made comments. Thanks to everyone who wants to give us feedback. Please check out our next show. So just to close, Tuesday, 10 a.m. The topic will be basic tips on communicating in a healthy way with believers, with Orthodox believers. So that's going to be the topic of the show. If you want to appear, to ask a question, to participate, if you want to ask a question, email it, appear on the show. That will be our topic. And we'll have some people join us and we'll have a great discussion. So Amy, January what? What is that? It's going to be the 10th, I'm guessing. Is that right? January 10th? January 10th, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Join us for that episode. Tips on healthy communication with believers. And please email us or join us in any other way. We love you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. We're going to
Hope you enjoyed Mormon Transitions Episode 1, kickoff episode to Mormon Transitions Live. It's early days here, but we are committed to improving and creating a great reference library for those experiencing or impacted by religious transitions. Your feedback is highly solicited. MormonTransitions@gmail.com or connect with us live every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 5 p.m. GMT, and share your ideas and opinions with us. Remember, your donations are tax deductible and permit us to help others work through their faith transitions and regain a sense of worth, stability, and peace. So visit us at MormonTransitions.org, click on the donate button in the top right hand corner, and as little as $3 a one-time or recurring donation goes a long way to help us help others. And if you love this music like we do, it was generously provided by Hive Riot. Check them out, hiveriot.com.